everyone, it's Keira and welcome back to my channel. So, Drive to Survive has finally dropped. It is March the 19th and it came out at 7 AM this morning GMT, and when I tell you I've been watching it all day since then, I am not exaggerating. It's now like 6 PM. If you don't know what Drive to Survive is, it is a Netflix owned series which follows around the Formula One circus for the whole year and then comes out with a 10-part documentary at the end of it. It is in its 3rd season this year and it was probably the best one so far. So for today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my thoughts on the new series and some of my favourite bits from a couple of episodes, and just sharing with you my main thoughts on Drive to Survive Season 3. I actually done this video last year on Season 2 when I was first starting up my channel. You can go watch that if you want to, however I'm really unsure about what it was even said in that video. I was very different back then. If you do want to go see what I said about it, then I will leave it down below or I will leave it in a card here. But yeah, let's just get into the video. If you do enjoy it, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe. Let's just get into it. Okay, so episode 1 is called Cash is King, and it was basically the start of the season, which I quite liked because I found that season 1 followed the timeline of the season quite well, but however season 2 really started to dip in and out of different things and I got quite confused in season 2, so it was very nice to see that season 3 actually did follow chronological order for once. Now, Cash is King was actually a statement that Lewis Hamilton made when they got to Australia. Now obviously we know we were in Australia last year when we definitely shouldn't have been in Australia last year, and they asked Lewis whether he thought we should be racing and he was like, no we shouldn't, but Cash is King. However, it was quite funny and quite ironic because the episode which is all about Racing Point and Lawrence Stroll is called Cash is King. So first episode basically is all about Australia and also pre-season testing and mostly about that Racing Point and all about Lawrence Stroll. And one thing I didn't realise actually was the car that they initially released Racing Point was not the same car that they then brought to pre-season testing, and people might know this but I just didn't click that obviously they had that Mercedes 2.0 that wasn't the one that they originally brought out, which I guess is why nobody raised the question when it initially came out in like, you know, start of February, whenever the car came out. So that was really interesting. But yeah, episode 1 was quite good, you know, flowed into the season quite well. And can I also just say, Lance Stroll is very funny. Like, Lance Stroll has said some funny things. Episode 2 is called Back on Track. Now this was primarily about Austria, also about Last Lap Lando, also about Christian Horner and Red Bull. Can I just say, in this episode, it really highlights how much Christian Horner has protested of Mercedes. They are constantly protesting Mercedes. Like, that's all I got out of this episode was how much Red Bull were trying to claw back anything they could from Mercedes because they couldn't do it on track. Firstly, they protested the DAS system, which obviously Mercedes were allowed to use for the rest of the year. However, it has been banned for this year. And they also protested Lewis Hamilton, whether he slowed down in a yellow flag or not, which was also in Austria. So a lot happened in like the first couple of races of the season. Red Bull just decided, you know what, we are just going to throw Mercedes under the bus. And I mean, you know, both of those things that they actually queried did end up coming out in their favour, so I guess, you know, it's worth them doing it. But yeah, I think Christian Horner literally openly said, we need to find a way to beat them. Episode 3, okay, it's called Nobody's Fool. Okay, let's just talk about how this episode starts. Now, if you haven't seen this, or if you've been seeing Bottas go around, I don't know, it must be, maybe it's a Finnish tradition, but Valtteri Bottas just gets naked with this other man and goes into like a sauna or a steam room. And it was like, whoa, Valtteri Bottas. Okay, so yeah, that was an experience. But the whole episode was basically about Bottas being a number 2 driver, and it really didn't tell me much, to be honest with you. It kind of told me whatever I already knew. And yeah, episode 3 wasn't the best to me. I can't really remember it. Honestly, this is why I'm filming this video on the day that I watched, because my memory, I lose my memory on things so quickly that I would not remember what I watched. Now, episode 4 is the juicy one, and this is actually one that a lot of people skipped to, and it was, we need to talk about Ferrari. And can I just tell you, Sebastian was a savage last year. I think it was the Italian Grand Prix. His press people said to him, when you go out to the media, obviously we had a bad time in Belgium, so don't say, you know, don't laugh. They were literally like, don't laugh. And he was like, what do you mean I can't laugh? I'm gonna laugh if I want to. And I think he really had that mentality last year of like, I am here for myself. You know, you dropped me, I may not have a seat for next year. Bear in mind, this was before he got the Aston Martin seat. I'm gonna do what I want. And it was savage. I loved it. Really good episode, really highlighted the issues, and it was just a kick in the teeth for Ferrari. I hope Mattia does not watch it back. And right at the end, they did speak about the secrecy between the FIA and Ferrari on that engine issue that they had in 2019, where we are basically very sure that they were doing something illegal, but the FIA just swept it under the rug. And when they asked Mattia, he was like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's over and done with now. And I was just like, you've literally got guilty written all over you. But yeah, that episode was very juicy. Very glad it was in there. Now, episode 5 is the end of the affair. Now, I love this one because we have followed Daniel Ricciardo's journey in season 1, season 2, and season 3. So to see that we've had it again was really good. You know, we've seen his moves from Red Bull to Renault. We've seen his woes at Renault. We've then seen his move from Renault to McLaren. Then next year we'll probably see McLaren, hopefully, to McLaren as well. It was just amazing to see, you know, all the different sides of it. And I think if you were to watch all of the episodes of Daniel Ricciardo back to back from season 1, season 2, season 3, you'd get quite a good story and picture of how his career has gone in the last 5 years. You could really tell in this episode that Cyril was very salty about it. This was one thing I picked up on. You know, I think we knew at the time it wasn't a very good split, but Cyril was like, Daniel's leaving me, Daniel's going to regret this decision. Now where's Cyril? Oh, not there. But I do get it from both sides, because obviously I get it from Renault's side. You know, they wanted to be on this long trajectory with Daniel for, you know, a long-term partnership. But from Daniel's side, he did say that the team were saying that by year 2 they would be battling for podiums and wins, and they just went backwards. So, you know, I actually done a video on this on my channel not long ago. It was like why Daniel Ricciardo didn't choose McLaren back in 2018 for 2019 when he should have done. I spoke about this in a little bit more detail. But yeah, that was kind of what that episode was. Hopefully Daniel Ricciardo does not get a full episode again of something like that. I hope to God he is just going to stay at McLaren now and be settled. Episode 6 is probably my favourite episode, and this was called The Comeback Kid, and this was all about Pierre Gasly. Again, last year Pierre had like 2 episodes in season 2 where they spoke about his issues he had with the Red Bull, and we know that last year he absolutely thrived in that AlphaTauri, and it was basically just him thriving. However, in the episode, a lot of the time, Pierre was like, I want to go back to Red Bull, I want to go back to Red Bull. No, you don't want to go back to Red Bull, please stop saying that. But Christian Horner made it very clear last year in the public and also in Netflix, I don't want Pierre back. So that was unfortunate. However, we really saw some great moments from Pierre, and it was just a lovely episode for once. Like, for once I looked forward to a Pierre Gasly episode because it wasn't a downer, it was really good. And it was also quite ironic because in that same episode, they were also showing the difficulties that Alex was having. And it's just like, this is literally Uno reversed from last year. Episode 7 was Guenther's choice. Now, I absolutely love this episode because it's Guenther, and you actually saw a lot into the situation with Haas and their drivers and stuff like that, and the fact that they need money, they need sponsors. Gene Haas was like, yo, I don't have any more money of my own to put into this. Guenther, you need to find some sponsors or I'm leaving. Now, it's quite interesting because I actually knew a lot about the situation between Mick going from maybe in the Alfa Romeo seat to maybe in the Haas seat to, you know, Callum Hilott thinking he had that Haas seat to actually having no seat in Formula 1 at all. I actually done a video on why Callum Hilott should be in Formula 1. I feel like I'm plugging all my videos in this video, but that spoke a lot about the situation straight after Callum came second and Mick won the F2 championship. But this really gave me a different perspective on the situation. From my perspective, it was that Ferrari had swapped them from Alfa to Haas, but it was actually Guenther Steiner which was pushing for Mick Schumacher to come and join Haas rather than Alfa Romeo, which was really weird because I just didn't know this. But apparently it was Guenther that was pushing for Mick because he knew he could get a lot of money out of German sponsors. He said he could get between 3 and 5 million if he had Mick on board rather than Callum. So Callum's name was actually never mentioned, but obviously we kind of know what the situation was. So that was really interesting, actually. I didn't realise it was Guenther at all. Coming down to the last couple of episodes, episode 8 was called No Regret, and it was honestly my least favourite episode. It was trying to create such a rivalry out of Lando and Carlos, which really wasn't there. I mean, it was there, but it was such a healthy rivalry that there was just no drama to add to it, and they were just trying to make things so dramatic. They were putting in team radios from races that weren't even anything to do with what they were showing. They were just making it really dramatic, and it wasn't working because we know it wasn't that dramatic. It just showed all of Carlos's bad times and then none of Lando, so it just looked like, oh, Lando breezed ahead and was better than Carlos because he didn't have any problems, when that just wasn't the case. So episode 8 for me didn't really do much. Now episode 9 was Man on Fire, and this was the episode all about Romain Grosjean and his accident in Bahrain. And honestly, this for me was so difficult to watch because they actually had a different camera angle that I had never seen before. I don't know whether it was out in the public before or whether I just hadn't seen it, but it was quite a visual scene of him trying to get out of the car. You know, and he's explained before, and he actually done it in Netflix, how he, you know, he tried to turn left, he tried to turn right, he then got out and then he got his foot stuck. You could see all of that so clearly. There was just a camera on him, and it was so hard to watch. It was really difficult to watch, but you know, it had to be documented. I don't think they could have done Netflix without documenting it. And yeah, Romain just talked about it in depth a little bit more, and then they moved on to Checo and his win in Bahrain. However, nothing was spoken about George or anything. not salty about it. I mean, I guess they just weren't covering Mercedes, so I completely get why they didn't, but it's just like, oh, you were there. We could have made this story a little bit more into George, but it was just about Checo and his win, which is completely viable because he completely deserved it. But yeah, nothing to do with George and Sakia were here, which is kind of good but kind of bad. And finally, episode 10 was all about Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and it was the rivalry between McLaren, Racing Point and Renault, because they had their little shootout for P3 in the championship there, and it was just an all-round good little ending to the thing. And there wasn't anything too heavy in there. We just watched Abu Dhabi, we just watched how people were, we saw some farewells like Daniel leaving the team at Renault, we saw Carlos leaving the team at McLaren and thing, you know, things like that really. And there was a lovely part at the end which was all about BLM. Lewis was talking about his experience with discrimination and racism and how he grew up and how he has fought against that, and he was saying, you know, everything that I have held in, I kind of fight it on the track. Now I'm gonna go on to some, what do I even call these? I never know what to call these. Subtitles? No, not subtitles, oh my god, subheaders. So if I was to swap out one of the episodes for another incident that actually, you know, wasn't shown on Netflix, I would definitely swap out episode 8 because the Lando and Carlos thing was so fabricated. It was nothing to do with what anything had happened. And I'd probably swap it out with either Turkey, because that was where Lewis actually thrived. As we know, there was literally nothing about Lewis getting his championship at all in this. Like, nothing at all. Like, I know it's not that dramatic, but I would have liked to have thought it would have had a little bit of a mention. Not one mention at all. Or we could have swapped it with Sakia, of course. It really, you know, it really needed to be there. It was the highlight of the year. It was the most dramatic thing I think I have ever watched, and it just didn't have a part. Now, my favourite episode was probably the Pierre Gasly episode, just because it probably wasn't the one that was most filled with drama, but it was just the one that touched me the most because it was the one that I knew I could look back on and be like, yeah, that is the guy. That is redemption to a T. I love that episode. And one thing I would have liked them to mention a little bit more was probably about the We Race as One movement and about the BLM movement. You know, we really had nothing, and it was almost as if Netflix were avoiding it. Now, I get that they're there to talk about what's on track, but at the same time, the We Race as One movement was such a big thing with Formula One last year, and hopefully its importance will carry on in 2021. But it was just like, we really saw nothing of it. It was like completely cut out. We didn't even see any drivers take the knee until right at the end when Lewis done his segment. It just wasn't integrated into the rest of it at all. And again, it's like the movement was segregated from the rest, which just shouldn't have happened. I don't want to get too bogged down into it because I know that this is a drama documentary. However, I would just like to have seen the movement that was We Race as One integrated into the episodes a little bit more than it was. So there we have it. That is it for today's video, and those are my thoughts on Drive to Survive season 3. Honestly, I really enjoyed it. I can't really tell you if it was like my favourite out of all of them, because I think I like them all for different reasons, and I think Netflix are evolving every single year that they do this. Massive thank you to Netflix, and I think it's Box to Box who have documented this and filmed this and done all this amazing thing. Thank you to everybody in the paddock as well, because I get so excited for Drive to Survive every year. I really hope we do get one this year as well. I thoroughly enjoyed my binge of it today, and I'm sure in like a month's time I'm gonna watch it back again, probably at a slower pace, and really take it in even more. If you did enjoy this video and enjoy my channel, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe. But yeah, I will see you again soon for another video. Goodbye.